sky was red with fire. The battlefield was full of broken machines, smoke, and burned trees. Human warrior Cade stood alone, breathing hard, blood on his arms. He had just fought off another wave of alien drones, but more might come soon. His muscles hurt, his armor was cracked, but his eyes were sharp, always watching. He didn't fight for glory, he didn't fight for orders anymore. He fought to survive. As smoke floated around him, something moved in the dust. It was small, weak, limping on bare feet. Cade lifted his weapon, ready to strike, but then he paused. Out of the thick gray air came a young alien girl, no older than 12. Her skin was blue like the evening sky, and her long black hair was dirty and tangled. She had strange gold bracelets on her wrists, and her wide glowing eyes were full of fear. "Please," she cried in a soft voice. "Brave human, my sister's in danger, help me." Cade lowered his weapon, confused. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice rough and deep. "My name is Vela," she whispered, holding her arm where a red wound bled. "They took my sister into the jungle." Cade didn't move at first. He had seen many tricks in war, and not all aliens were innocent. But this girl didn't look like a fighter. She looked like someone who lost everything. She was shaking, barely able to stand. The wind blew softly through the broken trees, and for a second, there was silence. "I don't help strangers," Cade said, turning away. But then he heard her cry. Small, broken, real. He stopped, closed his eyes for a second, and took a deep breath. Something in his chest felt heavy. He had lost his own sister long ago, during the first alien attack. Maybe, just maybe, he could do something right this time. He turned back and looked into Vela's glowing eyes. "Where did they take her?" he asked. Vela pointed with her weak hand, toward the thick jungle. "They flew that way, into the dark trees," she said. "They call them sky hunters. They have claws and red lights." Cade nodded slowly. "All right, little one," he said. "Stay close and don't slow me down." Vela gave a tiny smile. The first one in days, she walked beside him, limping, but trying to stay strong. Her small hand touched the edge of his armor, as if to feel safe, as they entered the jungle. Strange noises echoed all around. The trees were tall and glowing with soft purple light. Flowers opened when they passed, and strange creatures ran between the branches. Cade kept his weapon ready, eyes moving side to side. Vela walked quietly, but her eyes kept searching, worried for her sister. "She is only 8, Vela whispered. "She can't run fast. They took her when we were hiding." "What's her name?" Cade asked, without looking. "Ziri," she replied. "She's very brave, but she's so small." Suddenly, the trees moved. A strange clicking sound came from above. Cade pushed Vela down and took cover behind a fallen log. A dark shape flew over them, black metal wings and red glowing eyes. It was one of the sky hunters, scanning the ground below. Cade stayed still, heart beating slow and steady. He waited until the creature flew away, then helped Vela up. "They know we're coming," he said, voice low. "I don't care," she said. "Ziri needs me." That surprised Cade. This little girl had fear in her eyes, but also courage. She didn't want to save a planet, or win a war. She just wanted to save her sister. And that made her stronger than many warriors he knew. They moved deeper into the jungle, past fallen ruins and glowing rocks. Cade found broken chains on the ground. Someone had fought here. "Your sister might still be fighting," he said. "She never gives up," Vela said with pride, as night fell. The jungle grew colder and darker. Cade built a small fire under a rock ledge. Vela sat beside him, her head resting on her knees. She looked tired, but determined. "Why did you help me?" she asked, quietly. Cade looked at the fire, the light dancing on his tired face. "I don't know," he said. "Maybe. I didn't want to feel nothing anymore." Vela looked at him, eyes soft. "You don't have to be alone," she whispered. Cade didn't answer, but he didn't look away either. Far in the distance, a deep roar echoed through the trees. Vela stood up, her heart beating fast. "That's where they are," she said. Cade picked up his weapon, stood beside her, and said, "Then that's where we go." The jungle was dark and strange. Thick roots wrapped around broken stone statues. Strange purple plants lit up the shadows, and alien insects buzzed like tiny machines. Cade walked ahead with his weapon ready, every step slow and careful. Behind him, Vela moved quietly, her bare feet making no sound. Her eyes never stopped scanning the darkness. She was scared, but she didn't stop. "Are we close?" Cade asked in a low voice. Vela nodded. "I feel her," she said. "We share a bond." Cade didn't fully understand alien ways, but he didn't question it. He had learned to trust instincts. Sandhurst seemed sharp. Suddenly, something moved. Cade raised his weapon, ready to strike. But it was only a glowing lizard crawling on a branch. Still, Cade's muscles stayed tense, his eyes watching everything. "There are eyes everywhere," he muttered. Vela stopped, her face pale. "Yes," she said. "They are watching us." Above them, in the dark leaves, small red lights blinked on. 1, 2, 5, then 10. Cade grabbed Vela and rolled behind a thick tree. Lasers shot down from above, burning holes into the jungle floor. Sky Hunter's metal creatures with wings and long claws swarmed from the canopy. Their bodies were dark like night, their faces glowing with red patterns. One dropped toward them fast. Screaming like a broken machine, Cade leaped up and fired, hitting it in the eye. It crashed through the trees with sparks flying. "Run!" Cade shouted, pulling Vela behind him. They ran through thick vines and glowing flowers, their breath heavy and fast. The creatures chased them, cutting through branches with their claws. Cade shot one more out of the sky, but they kept coming. Up ahead, a narrow path opened between the rocks. Cade pushed Vela forward. "Go, now." They squeezed through, just as a hunter slammed into the stone wall, stuck and hissing on the other side. Silence returned. Except for Vela's breathing, her small hand clutched her chest, her face pale with fear. "I've never seen them that close," she whispered. Cade looked back, checking his ammo. "They're not just hunters," he said. "They're guards." "Guards for what?" Vela asked. "For something dangerous," Cade replied. They moved again. Slower this time, Vela lit the path with a small crystal she wore around her neck. The light was soft and blue, shining like her skin. It made the jungle feel less dark, even if danger was still near. As they walked, Vela spoke softly. "My sister. She was always stronger than me," she said. "She used to protect me. Now I have to protect her." Cade listened, silent. He remembered his own sister, how she used to hide behind him during storms. He never got to protect her the way he wanted. Maybe this was his second chance. Suddenly, the ground beneath Vela's foot crumbled. She screamed as she fell into a hidden hole. Cade jumped in after her without thinking, landing hard on his shoulder. They were inside a forgotten ruin, deep underground. The walls were covered in glowing alien symbols. Old machines hummed softly in the darkness. Still alive, after all this time. "Where are we?" Vela asked, brushing dust from her arms. Cade looked around, then walked to a large door, sealed with silver roots. "A place they didn't want us to find," he said. He touched the symbols on the wall, and they glowed brighter. The door slowly opened, with a low grinding sound. Inside was a room filled with old alien tech, glowing pods, and cages. Some were broken, others still locked in one of the cages. Cade saw a claw mark fresh. "She was here," he said. "Recently." Vela ran to the bars, her fingers trembling. "She left a mark," she whispered, pointing to a carved symbol, her sister's name, Ziri. Cade felt anger rise inside him. Whoever took Ziri didn't just want her gone. They were experimenting. "Using her. We have to move fast," he said. But before they could leave, the wall behind them cracked open. A giant creature stepped through, half machine, half beast. It had a glowing core in its chest and long metallic arms. Its face was twisted like a broken mask, and it growled with a sound that shook the floor. Cade pushed Vela behind him and raised his weapon. "Stay back," he said. This thing isn't a hunter, it's a gatekeeper. The monster attacked with speed, its claw swiping at Cade's head. He ducked, rolled, and fired into its chest, but the bullets bounced off. Vela screamed, and the sound made the creature pause for a second. That was enough. Cade jumped onto its back, ripping wires and stabbing into the neck joint. Sparks exploded, and the machine fell hard. Twitching, Cade slid off, breathing hard, blood running from his arm. Vela ran to him, her small hands glowing with energy. She touched his wound, and the bleeding slowed. "You saved me again," she whispered. Cade looked at her, tired but smiling. "I think we're saving each other," he said. In the silence that followed, they heard a small voice echo from the far hallway. "Vela." It was faint, but real. Vela gasped, her eyes full of light. "That's her," she said. "That's Ziri." Cade stood, holding his weapon tightly. "Then let's go get her," he said, and together they stepped into the next dark corridor, where even more danger waited. The corridor was long and cold. The walls were smooth and black, glowing with faint alien lights. Strange whispers echoed through the air, not from voices, but from the walls themselves. Cade led the way, his boots silent on the smooth floor. Vela followed closely, her crystal necklace glowing brighter the deeper they went. "Are you sure she's here?" Cade asked. Vela nodded, her hand over her heart. "She's close," she whispered. "I can feel her pain." They reached a tall metal door, scarred with claw marks and strange alien writing. Cade pressed his hand against it, and it slid open. Slowly, groaning like something ancient, beyond the door stood a huge chamber, open to the sky. It was the broken heart of a tower, an ancient alien structure, half destroyed, half alive. The walls were cracked, and vines had grown through broken machinery. Bird-like creatures flew in circles above, and sparks flickered from damaged control panels. In the center of the chamber, a cage of glowing red light floated above the ground. Inside it, curled up and barely moving, was a small alien girl. Vela gasped and ran forward, but Cade held her back. "Wait," he said. "It could be a trap." As if to answer him, shadows moved along the edges of the room. Tall figures in black armor stepped out, silent, faceless, deadly. They were Guardians, warrior machines made to protect the tower and its secrets. Cade pulled Vela behind a fallen console, and the first laser fired. He returned fire, hitting one in the chest, but it didn't fall. "These things don't go down easy," he growled. Vela peeked over the edge and raised her hand. Her crystal glowed brighter, and a pulse of blue energy burst out, knocking two of them back, but it drained her quickly, and she fell to her knees. Cade picked her up and carried her behind another wall. "You're not built for war," he said gently. "I just want my sister," Vela whispered, her voice weak. The red cage above Ziri began to glow brighter. The Guardians were trying to move Hurt, to take her deeper into the tower. Cade knew they had to stop it now, or she would be gone forever. He took a deep breath and looked at Vela. "I'll go," he said. "I'll get her." Vela grabbed his hand, her eyes glowing with emotion. "Don't leave me alone," she said. "I won't," Cade said. "I promise." Then he ran, fast and fearless, across the broken floor. Bullets and lasers flew past him, but he moved like a storm. He jumped over rubble, dodged energy blasts, and climbed a fallen beam to reach the floating cage. He reached a control panel and started working quickly. Old alien symbols flashed by, but he focused, using instinct and memory, back on Earth. He had hacked enemy tech before. This was just a new language. The cage flickered, and the energy dropped for 1 second. Cade reached in and pulled Ziri into his arms. She was light and small, her skin cold, her eyes opened weakly, and she whispered, "Vela." "She's waiting," Cade said, holding her tight. But the Guardians were not done. One jumped onto the platform and swung a blade at Cade. He ducked, rolled, and fired upward, hitting the machine's head. Sparks flew, and it fell, but another replaced it. Cade couldn't fight while carrying Ziri. He ran, taking hits to his armor, pain shooting through his back. At the last second, a blue blast of energy hit the floor behind him. Villa had crawled up and fired again. Her eyes were glowing like stars, her small hands shaking. Cade reached her, handed her the girl, and turned to face the last guardian. It was bigger, stronger, and faster. They fought hand to hand, metal clashing against flesh and fire. Cade got knocked back, blood pouring from his lip, but he stood again, always standing, always fighting. He saw a power core blinking behind the guardian. He waited for the right second, then threw his blade like a spear. It struck the core and the explosion shook the whole tower. The guardian collapsed in a heap of smoke and fire. Vela rushed to Cade's side, Ziri safe in her arms. Cade coughed and smiled. "Told you I wouldn't leave you. You almost died," Vela said, tears in her eyes. "But I didn't," he replied, "because you believed in me." Ziri looked up at her sister, her voice weak. "You came," she whispered. "Always," Vela said, holding her close. The tower groaned, walls cracking, energy systems failing. "We have to leave," Cade said, helping them both stand. He carried Ziri, while Vela leaned on his arm. Together, they moved down a broken staircase, as the ceiling above began to fall. Outside, the night sky was waiting, full of stars and wind. They stood at the edge of the jungle. Behind them, the tower burned, but in Cade's arms was a girl who had been saved, and beside him stood another who had saved him. The human warrior had come as a fighter, but now he walked with purpose. He looked at Vela, and for a moment, everything was still. "You're not alone anymore," she said softly. Cade nodded, looking at the stars above. "Neither are you," he said. The jungle was quiet now. Smoke from the broken tower rose behind them like a warning in the sky. Cade held the small alien girl, Ziri, in his arms. Vela walked beside him, still weak, but her eyes full of hope. They had found her sister, but the danger wasn't over. Ziri was alive, but her skin was cold, and strange marks ran down her back. Cade had seen wounds like these before. They were not just from chains, they were from experiments testing. Probing pain, he clenched his jaw, anger burning in his chest. "Who did this to her?" he asked softly. Vela looked away, ashamed. "My people once trusted machines to help protect us," she said, "but they turned, and now they take the young, the weak." For something dark, she paused, then added, "There's still one place left where they take the others." Cade nodded. "Then we end this." They moved deeper into the jungle, following a hidden path that Vela knew. Trees thick with silver leaves hung over them, and glowing vines wrapped around their legs. Ziri opened her eyes, just a little, and whispered, "Don't let them take me again." "You're safe now," Cade said. "No one will hurt you again." The path led them to a hidden cliff, where an old alien structure sat half buried in rock. It looked like a temple, but Cade could feel the hum of machines underneath. Vela stopped at the entrance, her hand shaking. "This place is cursed," she said. Cade looked at her and replied, "Then we break the curse." Inside the structure, it was cold and silent. Rows of glowing tubes lined the walls, each one with soft lights blinking slowly. Some were empty, some had chains hanging, but others still held small figures inside, motionless. Ziri hid her face in Cade's chest, her body trembling. "This is where they kept me," she said, her voice barely more than air. Vela gripped Cade's arm, her eyes filling with tears. "We have to free them," she said. Cade gently placed Ziri on a soft bench, then walked to the tubes. He studied the controls. Strange alien symbols danced across a glowing screen. He reached out and tapped into the panel. The light changed color, and one of the tubes opened slowly. Inside was a young alien boy, alive but unconscious. "They're still alive," Cade said. Surprised, Vela rushed to help, using her glowing hands to gently touch the boy's forehead. "He's breathing," she said, "but weak." One by one, they began to open more of the tubes. saving more children, but the room suddenly lit up with red light. An alarm sounded, loud and sharp, echoing off the walls. "They know we're here," Cade growled, drawing his weapon. Heavy footsteps echoed from deeper inside the temple. A tall figure stepped out of the shadows. It was not a hunter, not a guardian, it was something more. Half machine, half living flesh, and fully terrifying. Its face was smooth metal with no eyes, only a red core that blinked slowly. Vela gasped. "That's the warden." The warden spoke with a voice that echoed like thunder. "You trespass in sacred grounds," it said. "Return the subjects, or be destroyed." Cade stepped in front of Vela and the children. "Not a chance," he said. The warden raised its arm. An energy crackled at its fingertips. It fired, but Cade rolled to the side, blasting his weapon at the joints. Vela used her crystal to create a shield, protecting the others. The warden moved fast, breaking through the shield with a strike that shook the floor. Cade charged, swinging a broken metal pipe like a sword. He struck the warden's chest, and sparks flew. But the machine didn't stop. It grabbed Cade by the throat and lifted him off the ground. Vela screamed, her eyes glowing with fierce light. She focused her power, and a burst of blue energy hit the warden's arm. It dropped Cade, who landed hard, coughing, but alive. "Do it again," he shouted. Now Vela raised both hands, pouring everything she had into one final blast. The energy hit the warden's chest and cracked it open. Cade rushed forward and drove the metal pipe straight into the glowing core. With a roar, the warden exploded in a burst of red light and smoke. Silence returned, broken only by the soft breathing of the rescued children. Vela ran to Cade, hugging him tight. "You're hurt," she said. "I'm alive," he replied. "Thanks to you." Together, they opened the rest of the tubes, freeing every child. Some were awake, some still sleeping, but all were safe now. Outside, a signal beacon blinked in the trees. It was a ship, sent by Vela's people. She called for help, and within minutes, sleek silver crafts landed silently. Alien healers stepped out, taking the children gently, carefully. One of them looked at Cade with awe. "You did what our warriors could not," she said. "You protected our future." Cade didn't say anything. He just looked at Vela, who stood beside her sister. Finally smiling again, he had come as a warrior, but found himself becoming something more. A protector, a friend, maybe even something deeper. As the ship doors closed and they lifted into the sky, Cade felt Vela's hand slip into his. He didn't pull away. He just looked out the window, at the stars beyond. And for the first time in a long time, he felt peace. The ship flew quietly through the stars. Inside, soft lights glowed along the walls, and the rescued children rested in warm beds. Alien healers moved gently, checking pulses, placing glowing stones over small wounds. But Cade sat alone near the window, his arms crossed, his chest tight with pain. Not physical pain, his wounds were healing, but something else. He stared at the stars, his reflection faint in the glass. His mind returned to the fight, to the warden's grip around his throat, to the way Vela had screamed for him, to how her power had saved his life. He had been in battles before, hundreds of them, but this one had changed him, and he didn't know why. Footsteps padded softly behind him. He turned to see Vela, her blue skin glowing faintly in the low light. Her long black hair was brushed now, and her necklace shone like the sky. She sat beside him without a word, just watching him quietly. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Cade said, "You should be with your sister." "She's sleeping," Vela replied. "The healers said she'll be okay." Cade nodded, but his eyes stayed on the stars. "I've never done something like this before," he said. "Saving people?" Vela asked. "Caring," he whispered, almost too quietly to hear. Vela looked down at her hands, then back at him. "You saved her, Cade," she said, "but you also saved me." He shook his head slowly. "You're the one who made me care again," he said. "I don't know how you did it." She smiled softly, then reached out and touched his hand. Her fingers were small and warm. "You have a warrior's heart," she said. "But it's not made only for fighting." Cade turned to her, finally meeting her eyes. "You trusted me," he said, "when I didn't even trust myself." They sat in silence again, her hand still resting in his. The stars outside moved slowly, endless and bright. It felt like time had stopped, just for them. Later that night, the ship docked at a floating alien city. Tall spires reached toward the sky, shining with blue and white lights. Vila's people came out to welcome the children, bowing with deep respect. A tall woman with silver markings on her face approached. She looked at Vela, then at Cade. "You brought them home," she said. "You have done something sacred." Cade stepped back, unsure how to answer. He wasn't used to thanks, he was used to silence. 2 orders, to being alone. Vela took his hand again, and stepped forward. "He's one of us now," she said simply. The woman nodded, then led them to a peaceful place with trees, water, and music. Ziri was already there, sitting on soft grass, laughing with other children. Cade watched from a distance, leaning against a stone pillar. He smiled, just a little, but deep inside, part of him still asked, where does he belong? This wasn't his world, not his sky, not his war. He had been trained to fight, not to feel, and now everything felt too much. Too fast. That night, under twin moons, Vela found him again. She wore a long robe, silver threads flowing in the wind. "You look like you're ready to leave," she said. "I don't know if I should stay." Cade replied, "This isn't my world." "It is now," she said, stepping closer. "You fought for it. You bled for it, and you made it better." He looked at her, his voice rough. "I don't know how to live without war," he said. Vela smiled gently. "Then let me show you," she whispered. She touched his chest, over his heart. "You have more than strength," she said. "You have love inside you, even if you hide it." Cade felt his breath catch. He had never been seen like this, as a weapon, but as a person. Not as a soldier, but as a man. He reached out and held her hand, her fingers curled around his, and the warmth spread through him like light. In that moment, something opened in his heart. Something soft, something strong, something real. "You're not afraid of me," he said, surprised. "I was never afraid," she replied, "because I saw who you really are." They stood together beneath the moons. No battle, no fire, no running, just peace. And in the silence, Cade felt something he hadn't felt in years. Home. Not a place, not a country, but a feeling, a person. Vela. The days passed quietly. Cade stayed in the alien city, helping the children recover, training young guards, and walking through the glowing gardens with Vela and Ziri. But deep inside, he knew this peace would not last forever. Something stirred. In the stars, something dark. One morning, a council ship arrived, shining silver and tall. Inside were leaders from Vela's planet-wise elders and high guards. They gathered in a round hall, filled with blue light and soft music. Cade stood beside Vela as the elders spoke. "The machines are not finished," one elder said. "They're rebuilding, deeper in space. Many of our people are still trapped." Another added, "We need warriors to go there, destroy their core, and bring our people home." Cade listened without blinking. He already knew what he was going to do. "I'll go," he said, his voice steady. The room went silent, and all eyes turned to him. Vela stepped forward, her face pale. "No," she said softly. "You've already done enough." But Cade shook his head. "It's not finished," he said. "Not until they can't hurt anyone again." Ziri ran up and hugged his leg. "Please don't leave," she whispered. Cade knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I'll come back," he said. "I promise." That night, the stars looked sharper. Cade sat outside, checking his armor and weapons. Vela stood behind him, holding something small in her hands. A crystal, glowing with soft blue light. "This is for you," she said, handing it to him. "It's part of our bond." Cade looked at it, then looked at her. I don't want to break it, he said. Vela sat beside him, close. You don't have to break it, she said, but you must choose. He didn't understand. So she placed her hand over his heart again. Humans always think war is their duty, she said. But what if love is stronger? Cade wanted to speak, but her words caught him like a storm. He had always been the warrior, the fighter, the one who stood alone. But now, for the first time, he had someone who wanted him to stay. In the morning, the ship waited. Other warriors and human Ellis stood, ready to leave. Cade walked toward the ramp, his gear in place, his eyes sharp, but inside, his heart was heavy. Vela stood in the crowd, not saying a word. Her crystal necklace shimmered in the rising sun. Ziri held her hand, watching silently. Cade reached the door of the ship. His foot was on the ramp, one step away from war. Then he stopped. He turned around, slowly. He looked at Vilana, the city, not the mission, just her. She had tears in her eyes, but she didn't speak. She had promised not to beg, not to hold him back, but he saw everything in her eyes. Hope, fear, love. He stepped back from the ramp. Gasps filled the air. The captain asked, "Human, are you not coming?" Cade turned to him and said, "They'll need someone who knows the enemy. I'll help from here." Then he walked to Vela, step by step, and stopped in front of her. "I choose you," he said, voice rough but clear. "Not war, not escape, just you." Vela's breath caught in her throat. "You mean it?" she asked, trembling. Cade nodded. "For the first time in my life, I'm choosing what I want." He looked down at Ziri and smiled. "I want to live." Cheers rose from the crowd. Not loud, not wild, just warm, the kind that feels like family. Later that evening, Cade stood on the high balcony of the healing tower. Vela stood beside him, arms wrapped around his. Below them, children played, birds flew, and music danced in the wind. "You could have left," Vela said, her voice soft. "I've done that my whole life," Cade replied, "running, fighting, leaving." He looked at her and smiled. "For real this time. This time, I stayed." She rested her head on his shoulder. "You're not just a warrior anymore," she whispered. "I'm something new," he said, "because of you." And in the calm of that evening, under glowing moons and a sky full of stars, a human warrior who once lived only for battle, now lived for something far greater. He had found his heart, and it belonged to a world he never knew he needed. Asterisk. The alien city glowed under twin moons. Soft lights floated above the streets, and gentle music echoed from the wind chimes hanging in the trees. It was peaceful, beautiful, and nothing like the world Cade had known before. He walked slowly through the quiet paths, armor gone, wearing soft robes like the others, but even without weapons, he still felt strong. Children ran past him, laughing and waving. Ziri was among them, her strength returning more each day. She no longer hid in fear. Now she played with others, free. She called out to Cade, "Come, watch us." He smiled and waved. "I'll be there," he said. Cade wasn't a soldier here. He had become something else, something deeper. The people called him Starshield, a protector of those who had no voice. He didn't care about titles, but he did care about the look in their eyes. They trusted him, they welcomed him, and slowly, they healed him, too. Vela waited for him near the garden. She stood in front of the moonlit pond, her robe glowing like stardust. When Cade saw her, his breath paused, just for a moment. Every time he looked at her, the world grew quiet. Every step toward her felt like stepping into peace. "You're late," Vela teased, her smile soft. "I got caught up with Ziri," Cade replied. Standing beside her, they watched the water together, glowing fish swimming beneath the surface. "You still think about Earth?" she asked. "Sometimes," he said, "but not with pain." He had stopped dreaming about fire and war. Now he dreamed of stars, of laughter, of a girl who held his heart without needing to try. The council had asked him to train new protectors. He taught them what he knew, but also reminded them what he had learned. That strength without kindness is empty, he told them. That courage is not just standing in battle, but standing beside someone who needs you. One night, Vela led him to a quiet hill above the city. There a small ship waited sleek in silver, with 2 seats inside. What's this? Cade asked. Our people recovered it from the old war zone. She said, it's repaired and ready. Cade looked at her, puzzled. She stepped closer and took his hand. We don't have to stay here forever, she said. There are more children still trapped, more machines hiding in deep space. But I thought, Cade began. I'm not asking you to go alone, she said, smiling gently. I want to go with you. He was silent, heart beating fast. She looked up at him with glowing eyes, and said, You saved me, Cade. Now let me fight beside you. He had made a home here, yes, but maybe that home wasn't a single place. Maybe it was a bond, a promise, 2 hearts standing together. No matter where the stars took them, he squeezed her hand and nodded slowly. Let's do it together, he said. They entered the ship, sitting side by side. The roof closed, lights blinked, and the engines hummed softly. From a distance, Ziri and the children watched, waving goodbye for now, not with sadness, but pride. They knew their protectors were going to help others. Just as they had been helped, the ship lifted gently into the sky. The city faded below, its lights twinkling like stars on the ground. Cade looked at Vela, who leaned her head on his shoulder. This feels right, he said. It is right, she whispered. They flew past moons and clouds, past satellites and broken ships. The stars stretched out in all directions, a galaxy full of stories, danger, and hope. But this story, this one was theirs. The warrior who once lived only for battle, and the alien girl who taught him how to feel again. They didn't just fall in love, they rose in love, together. They were more than survivors, more than fighters. They were healers, builders of new futures, and wherever they went next, they would go together. The stars welcomed them, and so began their next chapter. Not as strangers, not as enemies, but as family under the same sky.